Howdy y'all, this is Joe Smo. Today I will be showcasing the work I've done on Foundry. Foundry is an editor made by Michael that originally was used to port the famous SMB3 workshop over to Python. And since then he has continued to put work into it. Starting off, you will notice, unlike Foundry, you can select different worlds off the bat, and furthermore, you can double click on the levels, and they will bring you to the corresponding levels. That feature was not made by me; it was made by Michael, and is currently in the release 1.20 of Foundry. Hopefully, my release will be really shortly, and will provide a lot of the features you see here and even more as well, as this is a very alpha stage version of the editor. It has many errors right now, so I'm just gonna go through all the features that I've added and any features I can name off the top of my head that Michael has added as well. Starting off, you notice that the editor is in a dark mode. Prior, it was always white. I did not like that. It hurt my eyes. So I said to myself, there must be a better way. And guess what? There was. And I added the Dracula theme. I plan on adding additional themes in the future. This one is just a good enough theme for me, so my eyes don't hurt. I know everybody's eyes are different, and I'm sorry about that. But I have to work with this a lot, so I just added the dark or Dracula theme for the moment. You may also notice that the level is basically spot on with how it looks in game. The white blocks are extending to the ground. They're looking with their shadows. They have the correct shadows. In that regard, if you don't believe me, let me use this one. You notice the bushes have shadows, exactly like they would in game. You may doubt this, saying that these shadows are not from the bushes, but I will prove you wrong just by moving this white block. Currently, I haven't added the feature where if you move a tile, that it updates all the tiles auto-magically. That will be a feature in the upcoming release of all the features that basically are a compilation of all the edits and additions that I've made to Foundry. So I'm going to move this. You notice that these tiles remain white. They remain white because this tile, at the time it was last updated, there was a white tile underneath it. Therefore, it made a white shadow. So the white block right there is, and the reason this is I actually more or less create the memory of the NES inside Foundry and use it to recreate the level. So in this respect, the tile, due to trying to make memory as fast as possible, because I wanted this to run at a crisp at 60 FPS. There's just some concessions that you have to make in order to make everything work really nice and fast. And one of those was not making every single thing update every single time you move something. So I have to add a way to only update things I want to update. In this case, I want to update this because it could possibly have this problem, and that will be fixed in the upcoming release. For the moment, you can just move it around and it automatically updates. You can move that back. You notice the same problem still occurs because at the time this was last moved, it had sky underneath it. Now if I move it again, it now recognizes that there's a white tile underneath it. And you can see this even more clearly with clouds or any other tile that there is no tile made for. Also notice that the length of the platform is made directly by the first tile of the platform. I don't know for certain if that is the exact way they're made in game, but it's very close to. And if somebody does find an inaccuracy, I will fix it. For the moment, it is leaps ahead of last release of Foundry, so Foundry 1.20 and Workshop. These tiles also use shadows, but not in the same respect. These, if anyone ever used these, you know that these do not have corrected shadows. It just generates automatically from a different generator in the game code. I had a look in the game code. That's how they generate, and that's how they show up in the Foundry. Continuing, bushes also has special generator code. They do not overlap. As I said before, nothing overlaps one another. I show this here. See, the cloud does not, even though, so I can turn off block transparency. Still doesn't show up because there is no overlapping of tiles. Every single tile gets its space and in memory. And afterwards, on each block there's only one byte located for each spot in memory. So you have to make use of whatever's in memory there, and there can be no 2 tiles in one spot. And therefore, that is what occurs in the editor. And these bush generators also try to guess to the they try to make it as correct as possible for whatever the spot is. So if I move this around, you notice it does not look good, because in game it would not look good if you did this. It would actually create that error and you would be sad because the editor lied to you. No more will that be the case. You can also save. Saving completely works. I probably will showcase that. I also added save as an ASM6 file. Sadly, in this release, it does not work. Something causes a crash, so I'm not going to do that. But just know whenever this is released in the next version, it will be there and it will work. Moving on, I also want to showcase the main reason why I did this. So first off, I did not like how Foundry kind of skipped a couple steps, so it didn't really it made every single tile overlap. Sorry about that. The NES controller kind of jumped off the desk, yeah, so it skipped some steps, and it had many inaccuracies with displaying tiles. I just did not like that. Foundry, not Foundry, SMB3 Workshop also had a similar problem as well, but to a lesser extent. I believe Foundry has fixed many of its problems in the 1.20 release, but at the time I did all these changes, they were very evident, and many people were complaining about them. So that was actually not the reason why I did all this work. The main reason is I wanted, as many of you guys know, I've been working on patches for the main game in regards to patches to the disassembly and that TSA editor that I made like a month ago that allowed you to edit tiles. The main point of this was to allow a very easy, intuitive way to make tiles very, very quickly and make tiles with functionality insanely quick. And that is really what this is trying to achieve here. So the main reason why I made this is to make this 5-byte object. This 5-byte object at the moment is very much in its alpha state. It's only available in the planes tile set at the moment. I can easily add it to any other tile set. I just have only needed to test with it in the planes tile set, but it will be added to every single like tile set into whenever this is released. This will also provide a patch that allows you to auto magically install the 5-byte object as the game obviously doesn't have the 5-byte object installed by default. Let's get started with this 5-byte object and why I think it's so great and deserves a patch from the editor manually and by default. So that means I basically hardcode this to be part of it. I probably will for a while also include the option to not use the 5-byte object, but I kind of want to make it standard, similar to the 16 by 16 block editor in Luna Magic. And that's where this block gets interesting, because similar to 4-byte objects, you can expand it as much as you want, and this can go as long as you want, but you can also change the type of the tile. And this is where it's really very interesting, because long before the days of the 5-byte object, you had to place every single one of these munchers, and if you wanted to make a different tile that is not made by a generator, well, guess what? You're just out of luck. With this tile, however, you can do that, and you can do it within a couple of clicks. There was a lot of bricks there, so if I do I think 90 D9, you get the water underwater background. You really can get that very easily without a lot of trickery and knowledge of the game code. Now you can do it in seconds, and that's the main point. And additionally, on top of being able to make these 5-byte objects, I also added temporarily, it's called view objects. I made this today, and it's really rough on the edges right now, but it does work, and it really showcases the potential here of what can be done. So this is it's the TSA editor. So similarly to the one I made in SEUX with Lua, this one is in Python, and it does basically the same thing. But in case you don't know exactly how that worked, let me make a little cloud. So you can select tiles up here, so any block works. I can select anyone. If I wanted to edit the muncher, I would just click right like so. I actually want to edit this. Then you select what tile you want to change, and then you select over here in the pattern table, which is the tiles displayed in game. It automatically determines which tiles are displayed. Likely in a upcoming when this is released, I also will include how to change those tiles and make it so there might even be some animation as well, but that is very tricky to get animation going, as well as palette, of course. You can also kind of disable the background, and it will also apply here, but that is a lot of work in progress stuff that hasn't been fully implemented. So you notice that it hasn't saved to the game. Nothing has happened now. Hit save. Wait a minute, and it will show up in the level, and you still get a very nice FPS as well. So this doesn't have any implications like speed-wise. It basically just takes time to load that new graphic, as I have to re-render every single block, and to make this so I don't re-render every single block all the time, it's a couple more steps than you might think. As I had to do a couple days ago, I had to do a lot of work to make it go from like 3 FPS to like 60 FPS. So that was fun. Now you notice the blocks here. If I hit save, it will show up in the game. So if I hit, I'll just save ROM. It's called .demo.nes. Open SEUX. I move the demo file, grab the NES controller that fell, and I load the game. Let me make this full screen so everyone can see. And we I just go back up here. First, we don't get... Oh, there we go. We got one of them clouds. But the level saves, everything works, everyone's happy. And this is very powerful in regarding to editing blocks, because not only now you can edit these blocks, but you can immediately use them in the editor. And they show up perfectly in the editor. Before, they would likely, I don't know specifically, but I believe they would show up in Foundry, but with Workshop, that would be a lost cause. And with the 5-byte object, you can use these however you like. And if you top that off with my disassembly patches that I've been working on, you can now use those to make new blocks that have different functionality. So maybe like another block that hurts the player, so you make an upside down launcher. And with that, you can more or less, just instantly make blocks in seconds. And that's really where the power is. Obviously, the 5-byte object is in its early stages here, but for what it is at the moment, it is still incredibly. It is leaps ahead of what we had, and with making this view blocks, something similar that you can select the tile, and just make it similar to like Lunar Magic with regards to how you edit those tiles. Select tiles and make them act as different tiles. You can really see the power automatically just come there and be very useful. Let me select another level so I can showcase really the power of this, and just show the full potential. So we load up the fortress. You notice there's no silly stuff going on. No, like with Foundry, previous versions, and Workshop, the lava would be going through the blocks, and it wouldn't look good. Now that goes away. I also want to show. I'll showcase the tower level after this, but let me just showcase the. This is also a work in progress, so I know it looks bad, but it will be reworked to look better whenever it's released. I made this today, and beforehand it was more or less just a tile viewer. That's why it's called block viewer. And I said, if we can view the blocks, why can't we edit the blocks? And like that, I just edit every single one of those blue X blocks to make them some kind of like weird Mega Man tile in seconds. So let me showcase the tower. Go World 5 tower. Give it a second. I believe the palette's kind of messed up. With editing how to optimize everything, there's still a lot of quirks, and this is a alpha release, or work in progress, very alpha E. So not everything's gonna work as you may expect, but for the final release, when I do release this, it's not gonna be the final release, obviously, but whenever this is released as a very easy to use program, so I'll make like an executable, so you can just easily click on it, and have different ones for each version, or not version, operating system. As even though it's Python, when you make an executable, problems do arise. Yeah, it's very easy to do with GitHub, which is where the project is at the moment. If you get help and go to the GitHub repository, you can see Michael's GitHub, which is where the main releases of Foundry are occurring. You notice the tiles do update and the columns do work in Foundry and SMB3 Workshop. That was not the case. Now, all tiles, for the most part, there's still a few that have not been fully worked, so the lamps, I still need to do those. Need to be reworked. And you may wonder how I did all this work for tiles. Let's say you wanted to actually add a different tile, because to add that 5-byte object, I had to edit the blocks, and I actually edited more or less the entire way blocks are made in Foundry. So I go to Sublime or whatever text editor you want, then go to objects definitions. You have to use Python, direct Python version here, but and go to data. Beforehand it was like all these, and it looks something like this. I don't like this. It hurts my eyes, and when things hurt my eyes, I change the way it's made. And this, I'm just going to ignore the first one because that's the overworld map. Here it is the plains tile set. I just know that off of memory. You notice you get these tiles. So this is the block design. This is what makes a bush a bush. You notice these? You might be like, what is 117,601? Well, if you go into memory and go to this specific address, it's going to have a tile for the bush prefab. So you can select any tile from memory. You can also make a byte, so anywhere from 0 to 255, and that will make the direct block in case you don't know where it is in memory or for whatever reason you don't want to do something like this. There's also remnants of the old design. Beforehand, you couldn't do that. I believe Michael fixed that, but he didn't remove it in the data, and I had to transfer this as this is 65,000 something line to cut like YAML. I didn't do that by hand, as that's not going to happen. Believe me, if I could do this by hand, I probably would have, as it took like 2 days to get all the code working, as I had to first make objects readable, and then second make it into YAML. Sorry, 1 day. I think it took a day. It took many days to transfer this into different types of bush. So this is called a bush prefab. There was no bush prefab beforehand. So this is what tiles look like. So you can really name these whatever you really want. The thing that matters is the numbers. So these numbers represent what they're loaded in the code. So these are magic numbers that lead to the generator. So if you want a bush prefab, you can name it whatever you want. You can call it the best bush. Okay, and just put 38 next to it. It's going to be the exact same as the bush prefab. It's just how it is loaded in memory. So this is intended for more dev side ideas, as this is working with the inner workings of SMB3 Foundry. There might be a way to do so easier in the future with the editor, but for the moment you have to directly edit the YAML file. And with that, I believe I've covered most of everything in the update. I'm going to just check out a few more levels. Have a good time. So, renders perfectly. Let's do the pyramid. Everyone likes to use the pyramid as a example. Where is that? Oh, on world 1. The pyramid's a really good example, as it has a lot of blocks, and it renders perfectly. Even the background loads. And honestly, I couldn't ask for better. You might also notice these blocks. If you don't like those, you can disable them. So like jumps on objects. If you don't want to see invisible blocks, items. Harmonia. You can edit and remove all of those. And they go away. And with that, stay awesome, be awesome. See you next time.